Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and in this video we are going to fix some broken homemade mayonnaise. Maybe a year or so ago, I did a video on how to make your own homemade mayonnaise, and I'll link to that right up here. One of the most frequent questions I get from people, though, on that video is, my mayo is not coming together. It's still like a liquid. What am I doing wrong? How can I fix it? And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. The majority of the time, my mayo comes out perfectly, but I would say maybe 1 out of every 4 or 5 batches, it just doesn't emulsify. It's very liquidy. It really sort of ranges from almost a heavy whipping cream consistency to somewhere between mayo and just a sauce. But it's not the thick mayo that we're looking for. The batch I did today isn't completely liquid, but it's not as firm as I would like it to be. It just didn't emulsify enough. And there are 3 things that we can do to help rescue that. First is an additional egg yolk. I find that when my egg yolks are on the small side, sometimes 2 just isn't enough to get the emulsification that I'm looking for. So step 1 is we're going to add another egg yolk. We're also going to add an additional tablespoon of water. And then we have 2 secret ingredients just to make sure this gets nice and thick. So you can see this is still pretty runny here. I'm going to scrape down my immersion blender and then dump this back into a measuring cup. Set this aside. So I've got my mason jar. Don't worry if you don't get everything out of there in terms of the old mayo, but I've got 1 large egg yolk, an additional tablespoon of water, and then secret ingredient number 1, sunflower lecithin. Lots of times manufacturers will use soy lecithin, but this is soy-free and non-GMO, so kind of my preferred form of lecithin. We are going to add a very, very small amount of this. I would say probably along the lines of an 1/8 to a 1/16 of a teaspoon. It's really just sort of 1 or 2 large drops. Give this a little whisk. Don't worry if all of the lecithin doesn't mix in. We'll be taking care of that with the immersion blender. If you watched my previous mayo video, I show how you can use a microwave to pasteurize your eggs. So if your eggs are not pasteurized and you don't think you're going to make it through your mayo in a week, I recommend this little trick. Watch the original video. Now I'll give this a quick pulse with my immersion blender. And then I'm going to pop off the top just because I'm afraid with the weight it's going to tip over. As I add back in my not so firm mayo. Once again, we'll use the immersion blender starting at low, then we'll gradually increase the speed and gradually lift the immersion blender up and through our mayo. Now most of the time, that'll do the trick. But as you can see, my mayo here is still pretty runny. So now I'm going to bust out the big guns. Xanthan gum. In particular, perfected xanthan gum. The great thing about perfected xanthan gum is it mixes so much better. It doesn't tend to clump. And we're going to start with a 1/4 teaspoon sprinkled on top here. And again, we hit it with the immersion blender. You'll notice that as I lift up the immersion blender, I also tilt it. That helps create some suction and pulls that xanthan gum down into the mayo. All right, you can see how much thicker this is now, and it's going to continue to thicken up after I chill it. Just give the edge here a little wipe down, pop on our lid, and off to the fridge. So there you go. That is my sort of order of attack when I've got a broken mayo. First, I try an additional yolk. Second, I'll try some lecithin. And third, I'll break out the big guns and use some xanthan gum. Now you may be asking, why not just do all this right from the get-go? Why not use 3 yolks and a little bit of lecithin and a 1/4 teaspoon of xanthan gum? Well, you could, But what I have found is the majority of time, it's not necessary. I've also found, though, that when it is necessary, I almost always need to do all three of those things to really get my mayo nice and thick. I will include links down below in the description for both the soy lecithin and the perfected xanthan gum. You can get the perfected xanthan gum at either Amazon or Modernist Pantry. If you do decide to buy at Modernist Pantry, I will include a coupon code. So check it out down in the description below. If you found this video helpful, please click that like button. If you're not subscribed to this channel, click subscribe and then hit the bell and turn on all notifications. And lastly, if you'd like to help support the Serious Keto Test Kitchen, click that join button and see what memberships and perks are all about. Thanks for watching.